very good evening to all of you to this memorable session AI at Work Shaping the Future of Business with AI, jointly with IBM and the Hindu Group. This is the third roundtable that we are conducting, and we have very interesting theme today, and also a very people from very diverse industrial background and technologists here. The theme for today is from cost control to value creation, rethinking cloud visibility and automation. To take this discussion forward, we have with us Mr. Samit Shetty, who is the country leader, automation platform, IBM India and South Asia. And we have Mr. Ankit Gupta, head of technology and product at Policybazaar. And we have Mr. Nagaraj Nagabushanam, who is the vice president, data and analytics, and the designated AI officer with the Hindu Group. And Mr. Nav Goel, who is the GM Finance, Indian Railway Finance Corporation. And we have Mr. Prashant Bhatia, Architect-DevOps with Naviga. And we have Mr. Sanjay Mishra, Chief Digital and Information Officer, Jindal Stainless Limited. Mr. Biswadeep Sahoo, Head of Information Tech, Hero Fincorp. And Mr. D. Bera, CGM BAS, GAIL India Limited. So, we have people, eminent technologists from a very diverse backgrounds today to take this topic forward. The purpose of this roundtable is not about running through some checklist. The idea here is not to see how we are going to save cost. The purpose here is to reframe the conversation around cloud not as a cost center, but as a value creating center. So, cloud cost visibility is often treated as bill management, but in reality, it can act as a strategic mirror to all of us, right? So, what is the business demand patterns? What type of innovation we can do at speed? And what are all the hidden inefficiencies? That's what we would like to understand from the whole cloud infrastructure when you see it from a FinOps standpoint, right? So, automation and AI can free human capacity, but embedding intelligence into the infrastructure can enhance the efficiency of the whole infrastructure itself. So, that is the key concept which we are trying to take forward today. And I would like to quote a McKinsey research that actually finds that organizations that typically uncover 10 to 20% of untapped cloud savings once they apply FinOps. So, that is one research input that has come from McKinsey. And there is also a Capgemini survey that shows only 2% of the FinOps teams totally manage cloud and other aspects within the industry today holistically, which means it is all managed in silos at this point in time. So, if mature adopters, if they actually go in for holistic management, they can look at 20 to 30% savings, and that is a research from Capgemini. And we are here to discuss and see what is to be done for us to go into that mature level, and what are all the hindrances for us in achieving that. Okay. So, I would like to take the first question to Mr. Sanjay yourself. When you look at your cloud cost, so what business signals or stories that it reveal today to you, and what you would like to reveal in the future?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure always to connect and talk to folks from the Hindu especially. I think cloud has two components. One component is that simply rack and stack your hardware, your infrastructure, which is instead of buying, you go and take in the cloud. Second aspect of the cloud is that taking the services which are not available. Everybody has to be aware where they are adopting going to the cloud for first or for the second, because both have the business use cases. One business use case is that whenever you want to do something very fast, instead of spending time into your internal processes to go and procure infrastructure, go to cloud and it's up there. That is one aspect from infrastructure perspective. From services perspective, yes, today in the world of GenAI, where most of the services which are available again in the cloud. So if I need to experiment something, I can quickly do in the cloud. In fact, as of today, most of the teams, not only just Jindal, they might be experimenting with some of the GenAI concepts which are available only in the cloud. If I try to build something from bottom up, it might take a really long time. What we are doing as a company is two aspects. One, whatever AI COE we have created for them to have faster access to the latest and greatest of the innovation what is happening either from Perplexity or from OpenAI or from Gemini or from Microsoft. They are available then and there. We are using it, leveraging it so that we try first, find out what works best for us, and then go and try to invest for a longer term. From that perspective, the cost comes. Second, for infrastructure also, wherever we see a a shorter term need for infrastructure. We are going further. Wherever, let me tell you, if I have infrastructure need which is constant for next 5 years, it makes more sense for me to have my own infrastructure from that perspective. If I am buying compute, if I am buying storage, if I am buying network. We are taking a hybrid approach. And my idea is that I think this hybrid approach should continue or will continue when the organization mature. If you are at a starting phase of your journey, you might go for cloud because it's easier. But when you mature, most of the organization, whatever I have seen, they are taking hybrid approach. Cloud for niche services and my on-prem infrastructure for my operations. That is what we are doing. I think similar approach we are taking from the cloud perspective.
So, Samit, actually, when I listened to what Mr. Sanjay was telling, right, cost visibility is a very crucial component when it comes to infrastructure, whether it's on-prem or cloud. So, if how, with your experience, because from IBM you are working with multiple clients, right? The experience, how can this cost visibility can be translated to foresight for demand, or what type of risk that we can reduce by having this cost visibility?
Correct. So, and I would kind of second to what Sanjay said, right? Industries have been kind of contemplating on should I be all on cloud or should I be all on prem, etc. And from IBM standpoint, we have been very clear that you can't be, either all there and all here. The pendulum swings both ways. So you have the hybrid thing will never go up. So there will always be an environment which will be on prem, and there will be always a demand for the thing on the cloud. The enterprises have started, started their whole journey into moving to the cloud, adopting it, and seeing how it works. But over a period of time, what the industry also saw that when they moved to the cloud, they also carried quote unquote the bad habits of on-prem onto cloud. So hence the industry came up with the term of bill shocks, right? You went to cloud expecting that the cost will come down drastically, only to realize that the bills are so high that you don't know what went wrong, right? So and the expectation was the bills will be very self-explanatory, clear cut in terms of what cost went where, right? But for whatever reasons, when the cost comes as bills, you need an AI to figure out where the cost is going, right? So that is where the enterprises then started realizing that I have to understand what is that bad habit of mine which is carried forward to the cloud, which is taking my cost up, and whether being on the cloud and what type of cloud. So right, there is reserved instances, there is on-demand instances, etc. So what should be that investment that I make? What's the balance that I took? Because when you take a reserved instance, your cost is low. But then when you kind of, if you're buying a lot of thing on demand, then your cost spikes up. So what's the right balance? And if you take a lot of thing in reserve instance and you're not consuming, then too the cost is too high. So what is the right balance? How do you kind of figure out where the mix comes in, right? That is where this whole concept now in the industry that started off in terms of FinOps. How do I manage the financials of operating on cloud, right? So the thought process is not just what am I spending, but how much am I spending for each of the aspects that I've taken on the cloud. And I've kind of make this statement, right? This is not just true for legacy enterprises adopting cloud. This is also true for cloud guys. Well, we call it as born on cloud clients, right? Yeah. So in fact, I have a very interesting story just to kind of divulge. So I kind of had a discussion with a client which is uh, born on cloud client, right? They are supposed to be optimally sized for adopting cloud. So we had this conversation that how are you managing your clouds, how is it going on? So he said everything is fine, we are managing it very well, etc, etc. And then I said, okay, no harm no gain, let's kind of give us about 2 weeks time. We'll assess and come back to you and tell you if you're good, happy, and if it's not, then at least you'll get a visibility in terms of what went wrong. Okay, and we did that exercise. I can't quote the number, but there was his kind of eyes opened up, saying that being cloud native, there was so much of saving that he can do just by optimizing few things.
Yeah.
The tier of storage that he kind of opted for on the cloud, in the thing of being very agile, there are instances he's rolled up in testing area, but then forgot that it was rolled out and it is getting charged for him, right? So all these kind of gives that visibility, right? So the cloud cost is not just in terms of what am I spending, but it is where is the cost getting wasted as well.
Correct.
Okay, and whether the cost that I'm incurring on cloud for a particular business, is it optimal, right? And the same concept can come on prem, because hybrid is not going anywhere. So how am I managing my on prem cost business wise? So for example, in a banking space, if I have a video KYC program, and if I have to roll out to all the cities, what's the cost that is going to take to kind of roll it out across? Is it worth doing that investment? Is it giving me that return? You can actually break down to from a business standpoint and tell me, okay, the investment that I'm doing in IT for this particular business, is it reciprocating to the business that I'm trying to get from the market, right? So FinOps is basically getting visibility in terms of the expenses that you're doing in the IT with respect to the business outcome that you're getting.
Yes.
So that's
well put, and I took the cue from your thing, the bad habits getting carried over. Right? So the question to you, Ankit, is, so what type of incentives or rituals that we have to bring in, so the engineering teams and the product teams, so that this bad habit goes away and they actually look at cost optimization. I will not call it optimization. Look at actually what we should be spending on the cloud. What set of incentive rituals you think should be there?
So I think first of all, we need to look at from the aspect that it should be a value creation, not only just about the controlling the cost. How generally we have to see as an infra is what is the value per capability that it is delivering against the cost as a cost center. We need to see the kind of applications which product and engineering are creating. What are the kind of customer experience that I'll be able to deliver? Let's say we have made a good mobile application or a web application, but if it is not able to give a best customer experience in terms of the speed and everything, then that particular infra, whether I am spending a money or not spending or controlling my cost, the application will be of not of any use. So we need to ensure that any application that we are creating or making should suffice the purpose. Being as a policy bazaar for a business, that what we have always seen, that we have to be a market leader in what we are doing. So any kind of application that we are building in our organization, we always see what are the benefits that it will give to the businesses, it will give to the consumer, and in turn that will help the organization. That's the reason I always say to my engineering and product team that not only that, of course, we need to control of the cost, but not at the cost of the value that we are creating. We have to always see that what are the advantages that this business application will give it to the end users, so that it can in turn help us. So infra is not always about a cost. It's how about how we as a organization take it. What is the kind of innovation, the speed, the performance, market leader that the application is able to provide with the help of the infra. If I talk about from few years to now, the people used to have a uh, systems which are not dedicated, are shared servers, then shared to the dedicated ones, to the CPUs, to the GPUs, now moving to the LPUs. It's all about the performance of the speed. With coming up of the AI era, if we are not able to match the performance of the application, not able to calculate or give the results faster, and we are lagging behind in our application, then that particular application will not be of any use for the end user. Hence, I always say to the product and the tech team, always build this solution which has a business outcome, which derives all the entire pieces, and it ultimately helps the organization to grow fast.
Thanks so much, Ankit. So you mentioned about value creation, right? So what happens, I think all of us would have faced this situation where an innovative experiment always has a challenge with fighting against cost, because while you are on the innovation phase, you will not be able to do any justification what value will come or not, right? This question is to you, Prashant. So how would you manage these situations when there is an innovative attempt, but at the same time you have to also manage this cost? So what actually typically wins? If a CFO is very strong, cost wins.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So what's your
So,
experience there?
I mean, being a DevOps architect myself, I think I have faced this situation when, one of our data teams, I mean, one day decided, let's do a AI thing, and let's build a CDP platform, using big SageMaker instances. Okay, now what happens is, an alert shoots up that, okay, I have breached so much of my cost, and what we are doing here. So, our answer, we are doing innovation. So I would say, have those, have the budget for the POC or the innovation approved beforehand, and have a kind of a minimum expectation from POC, and then build on that. So build small, and then you can always scale in cloud. I mean, that should be, that should not hinder and the innovation. Also, I mean, the cost and all the FinOps, this is kind of a shared responsibility between finance and the product and engineering teams, so that an alert can be sent to say a CFO, and then they say that this cost is going out of hand, and now we have to do something. uh, and also, I mean, when we build on we can have tighter budget controls and strict enforcement. So you cannot, for innovation you may need X number of compute, but when you go beyond that, you can go for some time, maybe have burstable instances, use graviton instances, or say, let's say, there are always alternatives, to a technology. So choose from many alternatives, and then decide what is best for use case. Build small, and then gradually scale. Build reliable platforms, and so that would, I think, leads to less clashes between this innovation and uh, cloud costs.
Yeah, thank you. And there is, I'll come to you, Nagaraj, with this question. Okay. So the cost our topic is how to achieve cost transparency on the infrastructure itself, right? So sometimes there are strategic decisions outside of IT, and lack or not having the transparency, or having the transparency. Either cases, how do you think that strategic decisions are being impacted outside the sphere of IT?
Yeah. So one of the best examples I can give around this is when we started building out small AI applications for use within our company. Um, we had the tendency to just make some applications, roll them out, and then our workforce is hugely distributed. Journalists are great at communicating, asking questions, taking the answers, turning them into stories and all of that. But if you talk to them about their work in terms of what they do on a day-to-day basis in the workflow, they are notoriously reluctant to talk about it. And that's not deliberate. It's just that they'd rather work on a story than talk about what they are doing on a day-to-day basis, right? So for us, one of the key things when our bills started going up particularly, was to figure out who is using it, how are they using it, why are they using it, what are they doing with the output. And when we wanted to look at this, the fact that the bulk of the experiments were done on the cloud was a huge boon to us, because just imagine this. I put out a tool in some in-prem machine and then roll it out. True, I'll have access logs and whatnot, but I don't know what else happened with it. Whereas in the cloud, because the moment you put something on the cloud, it becomes enterprise resource without strict IAM, no access, which means I know who logged in, I know how long they were logged in, I know what were the actions they performed. So I no longer just know about somebody used it. I now know what they used it for, how many tokens did they consume, what was the output, and I have enough information to follow up with them to say, hey, looks like you use this audio transcription tool fairly heavily. Can you tell me, did you use any of those transcripts to write some of your stories, right? Now, that is where the whole thing goes around what Suresh was saying around it's no longer somebody using an app. You are also going into whether the app's output was useful and used. Now, if somebody told me that yes, I use about 1 hour's worth of transcription tokens every day, but didn't publish a single story based on the transcripts, I was just playing with it, versus somebody saying I use about 15 or 20 minutes worth every day, but every time I've used it, it's led to a new story, a quotation, whatever, right? There is that visibility that being on the cloud, having this kind of information, all the metadata around the usage coming into us, which allows us to look at things like this in terms of innovation, in terms of business value, uh, to look at it from a more holistic sense than only as, hey, there were these 10 applications that we released. This application cost $1,500 a month. This application cost $50 a month and whatnot. Now, strangely enough, I've had situations where the $50 a month application has given us much better business outcome than the $1,500 application, right? So this is where I think it goes beyond just looking at the bills. Looking, like Ankit said, on business value, looking at innovation speed versus bills, like Prashant was mentioning. So Suresh, overall, what this means is you have to look at the bills, and many times it's the bills that prompt you to go ask questions around what are you doing with this. We're not saying stop that application. We are saying what are you doing with it? How does it help you? Is this creating value for us? Is it creating value for our users? Sometimes we've also found that the value may not be in potential revenue. Sometimes the value is not even on cost reduction. Sometimes the value is sheer reduction of drudge work. You are basically opening up multiple people's time and effort into doing something else that is more productive. And these are the kind of questions that we tend to ask when we look at our bills for our cloud engagements.
So what actually it comes out is, within an enterprise, now running an IT department is like running an enterprise,
Yes.
right? But when you run an enterprise, you have several roles, right? There is a CFO who ensures that there's a finance control in place. There is an audit team, and there is a procurement team. But now I think within this whole managing the infrastructure itself, you need to have a structure like that. So now I would like to keep this question open, but I would want all of you to answer and come to you last. Within your organization today, do you have a FinOps org structure? So what roles and responsibilities are currently assigned? You can, if something is not there, you can say it's not there. But then when I come to you, the question will be interesting. Yeah, please. We'll start with Sanjay.
Sure. Suresh, I think you rightly said that enterprise within enterprise. So most of the IT organizations, they have the budget. So they have to manage within that budget anyway. So necessarily what happens, and I can take example what is happening here. We have given an outlook for next 1 year and next 3 years as well. And within that next 1 year outlook, we have given what are the categories of the spend, what is licensing, what is infrastructure, what is resourcing. So all that aspect is given. So the cloud control is also not with a separate finance team, but within enterprise or within digital and IT team, we have to manage that. That is part one. On cloud aspect, finance, I think we are talking about that. There are few my findings with respect to my experience. Most of the cloud cost is not going what you use, but what you don't use. So probably all of you can go and verify. It is not that what, maybe that a very fraction of the cost is what you use. The services you subscribed once, but they were subscribed once, and I think they are continuing. So the beauty is that please make sure that you do review of your services once in a regular quarter, once in a 2 weeks, once in a month, to figure out. And when you do this exercise for first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you will automatically iteratively figure out what you need. That is what we are doing. So we figure out the first month bill comes, say, I don't know, is 50 lakh rupees. We figure out what are the services which we have never used or we are not using, it was one time use. Go and try to make sure that service is shut down. What is the other thing probably we need? Do we have 2 QA instances, 1 dev instance, 1 production? Do we need that? That iteration happens within IT team, and that is how we control. Three aspects. First, please make sure that do a very frequent review of the services, shut it down from that perspective, and then make sure that iteratively figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and that happens within the digital IT.
In your case, Vishwanath?
So, frankly, we do not have a FinOps team dedicated per se, but as Mr. Sanjay also mentioned, that it's a derived activity as part of our annual planning exercise. But it is obviously always driven with a business outcome based planning in terms of what is that our business demand is looking like for the upcoming financial year and a 3-year horizon or so, and what kind of new areas that we intend to experiment with, uh, which is beyond what we are currently managing, which itself as part of our infrastructure planning exercise also, which is as part of the IT team, we look at in terms of what is that in terms of capacity, in terms of what is the kind of volumes that we are, being a financial part of the financial industry like Ankit, how many transactions we are expecting, and that drives a lot of these computations, and whether we are within our budgetary constraints to say that okay, we will contribute to X% of the overall OPEX of the company. So these are inbuilt to our planning exercise, but obviously not as a dedicated mechanism to say that we would have a FinOps structure in place.
I think many of the organizations are at that level only today.
Yeah.
Bera, in your case?
Yeah. Like any other organization, you rightly told that there is finance team, there is procurement team, there is IT team. And since I am in GAIL, which is a PSU, we have to be very particular that we are spending money judiciously, and there should always be a capping. It should not be unlimited expenditure kind of thing. What happens in the cloud, the way you told, that if I am asking for a dedicated capacity, the cloud providers give damn cheap price. Whereas if I ask on-demand capacity, there are a lot many complexity. There are 10, 20 numbers of line items, everything has rate, and that has to be metered. And then you find out as to uh, how much is the kind of expense. Now, initially when we try to adopt a cloud, those kind of visibility are not there as to what will be the kind of expenditure if I opt for that model, which is flexible. And that is the power of cloud. We should go to cloud because we want to have a flexible kind of thing for pay per use kind of thing. But unfortunately, we don't get the visibility initially as to how much will be the budget, and budget is very, very important for any organization. So there is no other option other than to get a dedicated cloud. Definitely, if I get a dedicated cloud, it's not guaranteed that entire thing will be used. So that is the precise reason why people cannot use this cloud very effectively. Now, I have a suggestion for cloud service providers. let us follow the dedicated route, right? The way we are doing. And parallelly, you do metering as per your scale and show us that if you go to metering, you would have saved this much of money. That will give us confidence that yes, this is the right way. This is the kind of, we can have those kind of contract wherein both the things will go and whichever is less will pay that. If that kind of thing is there, probably that will be may not be agreed by cloud providers, but that will be a better proposition for people like us or any other person to control it.
I think there's one point I want to add, whatever he said. It's very interesting. See, the cloud, the reason directory of cloud was flexibility and as you go. But now cloud is forcing it to be a reserved instance, which is nothing but dedicated instance. I mean that dichotomy. Someday somebody has to resolve it. I mean flexibility and pay as you go and on demand. All that is now becoming very difficult thanks to the cost involved.
Prashant, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, in our organization, I mean, we are, as Sanjay said, that looking at the large bills and then checking, what are the cost that I'm paying for which service. What are my top five services that is costing me money, and what ROI I am getting from those services. Right? Can I look for alternatives? If not, then what is the percentage utilization on them? So that is very important because sometimes your QA or development teams may not in production, but development and QA teams may spin up huge resources which are just lying. That's a waste of resources. So one of the things for cost optimization is controlling all these things, and that is only possible when you analyze and build analytics around your cost bills. So that is kind of reporting, but then so it can so there are there are two types of application, kind of legacy and modern. So sometimes when when all the people were on on prem and then they moved to cloud, they migrated all their monoliths on the cloud, and now that is costing money. And then the other side of it is the modern architectures, which are kind of frugal engineering. So and from both, if I say how do I say that this is my cost optimized and this is not my cost optimized architecture, because modern may be a cost optimized and you are you are deriving a good ROI on that. So for example, in one of our modern architectures, we are for print automation, we are printing we are automating and charging customers based on per page. So per page automation, and we evaluate that in terms of cost, say half a cent or 2 cents, and then I can decide on a scale, because in cloud I can scale heavily, and then that gives me my forecasting. Okay, this would be my IT spend, or this would be my infra spend, and this is the budget I can reserve for development and innovation. And also if you do kind of a cost ops, and the money saved can be invested back into the innovation. And so I think that's my take on this.
Thank you. And from your side, your org structure from the FinOps standpoint.
Right. So as Vishwadeep mentioned, it's a kind of derived activity. So as a part of annual planning, infrastructure as well as budgetary planning, we do review. Since I'm from the finance background and looking after technology part also. So generally, IT department head would be giving a requirement with a 20-30% buffer in terms of VMs, what the need is, and the finance counterparts slashes it by 40%. So actually, you are at the 80% of your need generally. So there is kind of no situation wherein the thing you have asked for would be underutilized. However, we have a very good exercise in government systems, which is known as August review, where we review the budgets. So during the course of the financial year, if there is any further requirement in terms of adding on the cloud services, the IT head generally sends the proposal in like with a foresight that this application is coming up and this capacity would be required, and during the August review that gets catered to. So I would say the finance person here in the government system is acting as a kind of an ops, because he has the requirement of the other department as well, and he knows the requirement of IT department as well. So kind of he is synchronizing both the needs, and he is ensuring that there is no underutilization or overcapacity which is there in the system.
Nagaraj, both of us will agree to not expose ourselves.
Yes.
So I'll pass the question to Ankit.
But I just had
Yeah,
one
please.
perspective.
That was on lighter sense when
Yeah.
what I told.
I just had a perspective to add, and that is around one approach that we've had at the Hindu, and both Suresh org as well as my org somehow reached there, meaning that it's not like we coordinated and spoke about it or anything like that, but both of us came to the same model, which is around our budget is sacrosanct. Nothing is, once we've agreed on the annual operating plan, we might be asked to cut more costs, but it's never going to go up, not happening, which essentially means our orgs, both our orgs, when it comes to whatever we are doing on the cloud, the entire org is focused on making sure that at least till H1 is over, we are operating at about 70-75% of the budget, whatever the budget might be. We make sure that we have that buffer for doing fun things later in the year. Many times that savings never comes back to us. So typically what we end up doing is we make sure we spend the money on the second half, because otherwise once that money goes out of your budget, it's gone out of your budget. But we make sure that, number one, we'll never be in a situation where we'll be out of budget. Number two, we kind of front load on the optimization, and we enjoy the benefits of the optimization when we do our demos and POCs, all the fun things that we want to do. Because when you are doing that, you are not thinking about optimization. You are thinking about getting a result. You want a particular business outcome. And then when you're ready to say, okay, I'm going to move this from POC to production, is when you go back into the cost optimizing role, because now you have to take a budget for that particular deployment and so on. So just the 2 cents in terms of irrespective of how we are structured, whether we have specific roles, the thing that I want to bring up is every single member in Suresh's team and every single member in my team who works on the cloud pretty much takes personal responsibility for making sure that spending is not out of kilter. We are not. We might end up spending something by mistake, but not because we were negligent.
So Nagaraj, are you cloud heavy or on-prem heavy?
Yeah, we are completely on the cloud. Our
Really?
on-prem is very small, only test environments we have, but our complete production runs on the cloud.
Yeah, we are completely on the cloud, and we are multi-cloud.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So I just also have a add-up question to it. So in this kind of evolving scenario where we are working right now, where every tool is coming up day in and day out, new tool is coming up. So as you said that you have a budget which is very sacrosanct for the whole financial year, and let's say in the month of October you realize that there is something which is new and which we need to incorporate in the Hindu ecosystem, and you don't have budget for it. So you wait till the end of the financial year.
Oh, great question. So then it becomes a question of how urgent and important it is.
Okay.
Fortunately for us, more often than not, we can wait for a couple of quarters. It's not. Right. And see, I think we've never had a situation like that yet. But I would say we should ask Suresh for his views also, particularly about it. I think the only kind of situation where hey, there is this new thing that we have to address in technology, cloud, very important, has to be done now, would be risk and compliance. I don't think anything outside of risk and compliance is something that you would say, oh, I want it done now.
Exactly.
The things that we would say,
yeah,
I want it
financial
done
sector
now.
also, I mean, RBI comes up with
Correct.
so many
Yeah, and
obligations. which
security
often-
related
And
stuff.
except in cases where you have a new top line,
Yeah,
and that requires an investment that was
absolutely.
not part of a budget. Anyway, there's a new top line there, and from there you can derive and get it becomes a completely new approval
For us,
part.
it becomes in our
Yes.
language, it's a recast AOP.
The
Recast of
annual plan.
annual operating
operating plans.
It's
So
a recast AOP.
So Ankit,
It becomes a new budget.
It's always very difficult to be the last person to answer on a common topic because most of the answers are already taken out. But still, I know you have a few points that you want to convey.
So I think in our organization, we always do a regular monitoring of the infra cost, especially with the applications, the usage, where we are spending the money, where we are not spending the money. As you have rightly said, there might be 20% of the applications which are not getting used. So taking care of those particular applications where we are not spending the money, we are not spending and getting the business, but we are spending a lot of money on that particular piece. We do a regular monitoring of those particular applications. It always helps us in taking care of which is the area where we can control the cost. Of course, we have to always see, like, we have to increase the business output, but of course, taking care of the cost, making it the alerts, everything is already in place, so that in case the cost goes beyond a certain levels, the alerts are triggered. And what we have done in our organization is all the costs are associated to the applications that we have attached to it, so that in case any of these cost goes for a particular application high, it gives an alert that this particular application is getting a lot of cost in that particular area, so that it can be rightly directed to that particular team. Because what I have seen in my experience is with various certain organizations where the applications are not mapped, then it's a very difficult to find out which particular application is getting out of control in terms of the cost. Hence, in our area, what we have done is the mapping of the applications with the costs, so that we can take control of the entire applications in our cells, so that if the cost is going high, we can control that particular piece. In terms of the innovation, the new products, the new technology that we are building, so that we get a buffer to go with that particular cost to so that the business outcome can come at the end.
Samit, hearing to all of them, and because I think we are on this side of the river where we are utilizing infrastructure and going through all this thing, and you are on the other side of the river where you are a platform provider. One thing is clear, that we need automation here, and a governance is required, and intelligence which is embedded into the platform that can give us real time inputs in terms of what is happening on my consumption. Lack of this is what we are all struggling today, right? And there is also McKinsey estimate that says that when you have FinOps as code, there's a scope of $120 billion savings globally. So just take that down to our thing. Even if I could save 10% of my budget, I'm sure I can do 4 more experiments from your platform, that the platform that you are having as a product. Can you take us through the automation, governance, and the embedded intelligence that is required today to address the challenges that you are facing, and what sort of FinOps roles are actually required? Because as a product vendor, you would have assigned that these are the roles that should be there to take care. If you can take us through that, that would actually take us to the next theme, then we can take that conversation forward.
Correct. So I'll maybe take pointers from each of you, kind of who kind of mentioned in terms of how this works, right? And maybe I'll start with to the point what Nagaraj said, right? Now there's this this tussle, which even Naif basically mentioned, that the budget, the IT will come and say, I will buffer it by 30% so that I have enough money to play around with, and then the finance will say cut down by 40%. This basically turns out, and to Nagaraj's point, right? We will buffer it and front load it so that the optimization I can do for something that I can play around with. Finance guys doesn't like people playing with their money, right? So that is where the whole fundamental disconnect starts happening, right? In terms of trust.
Yes.
That whatever the IT is giving me, let me see if I can slash it by 30%, because I don't know how the money is getting used out. Is it front loaded and then the optimization will happen, and I'm spending it upfront, and then my money is stuck, etc., etc. So whenever we kind of have this FinOps conversation, we always make it a point that we have the finance guy in, and the finance guy kind of the first thing that he kind of loves about it is he gets visibility that where the money is going to get spent and how much is that utilization going to happen. So the typical question is, okay, you're spending this much, which business is going to, you're associating this cost to, and by the way, whatever you spent in the last, how much has that got translated into business, or how much is that at utilization, right? And for whatever, not knowingly or unknowingly, the IT team kind of struggle giving that business perspective to the finance guy, saying that I invested this much last year, out of which this much is the utilization. This is what the business kind of got the benefit out of it, and so on and so forth. When you put a FinOps in place, all this is there on the dashboard, on the mirror, to kind of the finance guy to have a look at it, and not do a guesstimate saying that slash the budget by 30%, slash the budget by 40%. He has clarity in terms of this much I spent for this business, for this outcome, and this is what it is at, right? So it's to the point that let me kind of now start stitching it together. Some of the bad habits, right? I will size it for the peak, right? That is what we do on-prem. But the cloud is not known for it, right?
Yes.
You are supposed to scale as you grow,
Yes.
right? To your point, in terms of I don't know how much am I going to pay for it, etc., etc., right? So that is where the thing comes in terms of you don't have to size it for the peak. You have to kind of do the right sizing. What is that right sizing? So basically this tool kind of give you the visibility in terms of what should that cost be, right? Now to your point, in terms of is it generating value to the cost that I'm kind of spending, what that application is at a cost, is it generating that value? So tomorrow, to what Nagaraj said, right, I have application A, I have application B. There is a lot of uptake on my application A, and it is a little cheaper than my application B, which is not adding value. Why should I keep investing in it, right? There are I forget who kind of made that point, saying that we have made that investment and the services is there, but we are not utilizing it, but we are still paying for it, right? So for example, as I said, you have rolled up a test environment for doing testing of an application. You have gone into production, but that environment is still sitting there, right? The whole visibility of where all my cost is going, where is the structure, etc. To one of the biggest, I'll kind of now touch base to one of the biggest bank, and they are the reference like HDFC Bank, right? They had this multi-cloud, hybrid cloud architecture. So they said, okay, now the cost, I have Azure, I have AWS, I have GCP, I have invested in all, I have application running in all clouds, I have application running on-prem as well. So, but how do I control this cloud cost? So they said, let us put a dedicated team who is managing cloud. But that is in terms of, okay, optimization they will do, etc. But they were still struggling with transparency and visibility, right? Which is where when we went and said, okay, this is what we have from a FinOps standpoint, the finance guy kind of got very excited, saying that now I know. So for example, the team comes and says, I need to do, a next investment on AWS. Okay. He can go and say, but I see there is a lot of capacity still left on your GCP. Why can't this be done over there? You have a MAC contract, this needs to get spent out. Why not do that? Have you tried that out? This intelligent conversation can happen rather than the conversation that slash the budget.
Right.
Go back, revise,
come back, I can ask you for. He can now have intelligent conversation with the IT guy saying that, okay, this is what your spends look like. Okay, you have underutilized this capacity, you are coming for this. Can you have a look at it? So there's an intelligent conversation that can happen, and a transparency is on the plane of glass where we can have a open conversation saying that what is right, what is wrong. So HDFC has seen so much of benefit with this whole phenomenon that they've seen the ROI coming in 3 months time flat. And they've come to our Think platform, which is one of our biggest, and have kind of endorsed that when you're running a multi-cloud environment, you need to know what is my investment or reserve instances, because obviously the cost benefit you have, and what should be on demand. And when you're going on demand, which platform should I go up to? So if I need an X service, all three cloud providers have that X services. Where am I getting a better deal? Right? So you don't have a lock-in coming in place. So all these aspects basically comes in terms of how do you arrest the bad habits, how do you bring transparency, and how do you bring predictability, saying that okay, if I switch my cost from this to this, that if then analysis which the finance guys love doing.
Right.
What if I change this to that, right? All that if then analysis, right? You are able to do it to the student. That's what basically FinOps is all about, right? Giving the control with both the finance and the IT guys, and allowing them to have a transparent and open conversation, and not do guesstimate saying that I'll keep some buffer here. The finance guys don't like the concept of buffer, right? So there's an open and
Actually,
candid
that's what
conversation.
they say. Um, honestly, I think, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to make the point that the whole thing around cloud visibility and transparency, I think, is as much for tech leadership as it is for the finance guys. Because, uh, come on, I mean, I'm probably going to say something that's not usually said, but we dance with the finance guys, right? In the sense that there is a relationship. There is you made a point about trust, which is very important. So there obviously has to be enough interactions that there is trust. But the moment trust is there, and I think that's where I was making the particular point around, I would do this. It's not like I'm hiding something or doing something without the Fin guy's knowledge. It's actually, it's kind of like, yeah, I know you have to get it done somehow. And, if you're front loading it a little bit here, I will look the other way. And, so it's kind of like, on one hand, it needs trust, like Samit said. But on the other hand, I also think that the visibility is as important for us as it is for finance guys. Sorry, Samit.
So absolutely well said. That's and as you also mentioned the point, right? Sometimes that is not intentional, but because it is slipped out, right? And to what I said, right, the cloud native guys were supposed to vary this. We have seen that example was to an extent of about 45%, right? Not a small amount. If a cloud native guy is able to see 45% of saving on his cloud spend, it's significant, which he thought he's optimized to the T. He was kind of taken aback saying that, oh, I could have optimized this much. Right? It is not because you want to do it, it is because you are not aware that this is a possibility that could happen, which is what FinOps basically gives you. It gives you the visibility and options that you can pick from, which can bring down your cost.
So now, to Biswadeep, if you take, if you define automation in FinOps, like define it as provisioning, right sizing, anomaly detection, and real-time information about how things are done. So what type of business value that we can get by freeing teams instead of actually doing these things manually, and most of the times it is reactively.
Uh, I would take a step back from cloud and kind of relate it to something from a workflow standpoint to some extent. Uh, a recent example could be we had a challenge of doing something which was, and in most of the cases when any regulatory obligation comes in, it's both retrospective as well as prospective in nature. Now, prospective is the easier part for us to solve for, where we know what needs to be done, what kind of infrastructure needs to be put in place. But retrospective is where the challenge comes in, where we know it is only for a shorter duration that this needs to be put in place. And that's where we had a recent challenge in terms of masking of certain information in financial sector. It is very prominent for us to ensure that there is absolutely data security whenever it comes to PI information for any of our customers. And for us, having more than probably around 9 million active customers, having underwritten more than 20 million customers, uh, the volume of data that we manage over the last many years, the retrospective impact for us was too huge in terms of cost. And when we decided to, and in most of our cases and across industries, we always have an option to build versus buy as an option. And when we looked at the nuances in terms of cost, and obviously we wanted to be cloud first in terms of whenever we are looking at any new application, we want to be cloud first from an approach standpoint. The cost was almost 4x when we kind of were looking at it from a retrospective uh, data load standpoint. So, and it was only for a shorter duration that we had to execute this, and which we could scale it to an extent, and being transparent at the same time, where we had the right visibility that okay, if this volume needs to be attained within a certain time period, this is the cost that we are going to bear with the number of instances that I want to turn up and all. So I think it gives us a clear impact in terms of what we can achieve in what duration, and then say, okay, why do I bother about my team looking at application, whether the behavior is right, not right. I have Kibana pipelines spawning out the dashboards and telling me on real time basis in terms of what is my performance at any given point of time. At the same time, understanding that okay, this is the cost within which it is getting managed. So that's the power of cloud that I see, that it frees up my effort in terms of okay, there is one person who is dedicatedly managing this retrospective task, which is only for a short term duration. Probably I can turn up something new in spite of somebody having dedicatedly monitoring that particular application. At the same time, we also have other use cases, as I said, in terms of prospective savings, uh, which actually translate into and the kind of transactions that we manage, uh, whether there is any real time productivity saving, not from a cloud infrastructure standpoint, but I am saying from a business operation standpoint, if I am able to save any form of productivity, is a boon for me. So from there, where we are having multiple use cases that we put into place, and I think BFSI industry has been at the forefront of AI use cases in the recent years, uh, and I think with the use of cloud-based AI applications, we have been able to turn around things much faster, and at the same time show an impact in terms of what productivity savings that we are able to bring onto the table to the business, including the finance teams dancing along with them to what Nagaraj has quoted. Uh, we are able to transparently bring that out. So I think both on ground operations as well as tech operations, we have significant benefits that we have seen in terms of where we have freed up real capacity uh, put into place with the use of cloud and AI both.
So Sanjay, one question that I want to ask you. So now the underlying point is that we want to implement automation in the FinOps, right? But at the same time, I would want to experiment where it is going to be outside this automation aspect. So how do we balance these two in real life? Because sometimes we, while experimenting, we don't want that automation to come and control things by itself, right?
So see, I think automation is a journey. It doesn't start the day one. So with innovation and automation, what we are doing, and probably that might be the best practice, you first try something manually. Hey, I am trying this manually, and write down those rules. What is that manually you are doing? See, anything and everything can be automated, which is scientifically rules are written. Automation is nothing but somebody is doing what is written as a rule. And AI is one next step. When even the rules are not there, they define the rule. So for for that perspective, even for FinOps or cloud, what we're talking about, let's make sure that we do, as most of the panel members have said, that let's review what has been happening for past 3 months, 6 months, past 1 year, which is giving value, which is taking more time, what are the alternatives, and once I'm able to define those rules, I can simply go and automate. I think probably that is where the automation in the cloud finance FinOps can take. One observation with respect to, I think, cloud, and maybe most of my friends who are using cloud, they will know, as somebody is talking about that visibility. I think the biggest challenge I saw in the cloud visibility is that the bill of material. It is so complex that even I'm pretty sure maybe it was done by design, but there is nobody can decipher whether I should stop it, start it, because I don't know if I stop this service, what is going to be impact. It is even for very small infrastructure kind of storage, if I need 512 storage, I don't know, there might be associated 20 services which I will not be sure, hey, what shall I do if I stop it, what is going to happen. I think one request to all my hyperscaler friends, including IBM, is that is there a way to simplify the bill of material, because that is actually a challenge what I've seen. I mean, very simple service what we are running, and the BOM is so small, and 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 20 rupees, multiply by hours, multiply by weeks and days, it becomes a big number. It might look small in the unit, but then, hey, leave it. But when I leave it, it keeps on going for 365 days. It becomes a big number. So I think from FinOps, I'm not sure I answered your question correctly, but I think once you have defined the rules, you can always automate. But for my hyperscaler friends, bill of material BOM need to be simplified than where we are. It's a cross providers. It's a cross provider. It's a complex.
So because the type of problem that we face, being on your side today, sometimes we cannot answer the question because we have still not come to the level to answer the question. We have other problems which needs to be sorted first before we can come to that level, right? Yeah.
So I think so IBM is not in the cloud and hyperscaler business, because we believe hybrid and multi-cloud is the way. So we were kind of we kind of give solutions which helps solve such problems. FinOps is exactly what, if I to meet the business SLA, if the application should have this SLA, the response time should be so and so. Have I invested the right thing? Okay, is the server tier or the storage tier the right one that I've picked up? Getting that hole on a plane of glass. If I switch this off, what is my impact on the blast radius that I have? Right? Is it going to impact any other services? All that visibility is what we're talking about, in terms of which currently people struggle with, in terms of, okay, what service I should continue with, what I should not, what is the bill
It's like
looking
a
like.
chatbot on the top of bill of material.
Yeah, so basically it kind of simplifies this
But if you have
complexity
done
that
it
every
and if you have
hyperscaler comes or
cracked
brings
that,
in.
I'm pretty sure it's a big justice you are doing to the cloud cloud community.
So I think that is what HDFC has seen, right? The whole complexity getting simplified for them to take decisions, that what I should go ahead, what I should shut down. That's the saving that they were saying when they kind of started getting into the journey of FinOps. The savings is basically turning off few things, switching few things, and all those stuff.
I second with Sanjay, just to add on, I think that this is the intelligence actually the FinOps tool should have, so that the everything is crystal clear and the decisions can be made on that particular basis. Like, here we need to scale down, here we need to ramp up, scale up the things in order to control the cost and create a value.
I think I just last point, and I'll move. And this is a practical problem I'm telling. What happens? Suppose my critical services is running on an environment. I don't really want to touch anything because hey, I don't know. Hey, the cost for me it might look very small, but I know it is going to multiply over the time. So okay, let it run whatever is running. What is doing, even if I don't know, and I don't want to take a chance. I don't want to be the bad guy because somebody has started it, right? So I don't want to. If I don't stop it, nothing is going to hurt me. But what if something happens? So that is actually a big challenge from cloud cost perspective. I mean the complexity of the bill of material, and then I'm not sure who has the visibility. Maybe the big item you can have the visibility, the big ticket item, but when the bill of material is 100 pager long, which might be 50 pager for folks like who are heavy in the cloud, is very difficult.
So on the, sorry, on one side, the FinOps is giving us insights into what is happening on our infrastructure. I think the logical progression from there should be, is it able to auto optimize by itself, so that it knows what is happening, it knows what is used, what is not used. Can it go ahead and self optimize itself, so that we get the savings which traditionally used to be reactive manual work? If that were fully embedded and available, I will open this to the forum. Anyone, even more than one person can answer. So what type of business advantage we think we will get when logically it goes to self-optimizing mode and it can improve by itself?
So maybe let me start off because I can give you live example where this, right? So there was one application and it kind of, the FinOps basically gives you a topology that this is the architecture, this is the middleware, this is the server, this storage. And this is the SLA, typical response time for that application that is expected out of, right? With the tool, the tool was able to throw a data point saying that okay, in from this tier you're actually selected this storage level. If you move this to this tier, you will save this much cost. By the way, if you allow me, I will make that switch, and it will also tell you whether there is a downtime required for making that switch or not. Right? So if there is a downtime required, it will tell you to make that switch, I will need this downtime. And if there is no downtime, so we call it as no-brainer action, which means cost is saved, no downtime, no impact to business, and SLA improved if not retained, right? So these are no-brainer activities. So this, obviously, the tool is currently capable of doing that automatically, but the trust on AI has to get built over a period of time. So the tool will throw, this is a no-brainer activity, do you want me to execute? And then you can just say yes, and it will kind of provision and come back and say done. So that's, I mean, that is what the FinOps is all about. Sorry.
Is it a continuous feedback mechanism from the application that goes into
Yes.
this layer? And
yes, so it will tell you to meet this particular business SLA, whether you are right sized. So you might, as I said right in the beginning, have you oversized because you want to cater to the peak? You have oversized your application. The application is not utilizing the capacity that you have provisioned for. Do you want to deprovision this?
while we are looking at cost provisioning here, would it also work other way around where we would have peaks?
Yes. So it will tell you. It will tell you that for meeting this particular stack that you have provisioned for the SLA. So the input that is coming is business SLA, because it is always has to be business value. That my application is supposed to work in this fashion. For it to work in this fashion, what is required? So if you have under provisioned, it will come and tell you the SLA is not getting met because you are under provision. You need to invest in XYZ area. If you are over provisioned, it will come and tell you you have over provisioned, the SLA is anyways getting met. You might want to remove this and give it to this application which needs it. So that also it can kind of tell you that application A is over provisioned, application B is under provisioned. You might want to shift the balance there. Right. So that is what basically FinOps helps.
I think probably that might work very well when the services you are using are largely compute or storage perspective. I mean, is it over compute or over storage? And they are very common services. See, there are many services what I'm talking about. They are built and they runs once in a quarter, once in a year, or somebody runs it on demand, and which are not compute or storage. You get my point? That is where this visibility problem comes, that I'm not, as you talked about, right? Can AI optimize it? AI can optimize what Samit is talking about fairly. Hey, my load goes, my demand for memory goes this much, let me provision it. There are niche services which are running, it will not know when it will be required or is it required or not. Probably if we solve that problem, we might be in a
So, I don't know whether, let me just maybe take a hint of it. So for example, if you're running a warehouse and you've kind of running some job for a end of day reporting, whatever, right? You're kind of running that job. Now, what is the cost of running that job, right? What is the ingress egress cost that got charged because you ran that job? So there are situations where a job is getting run on the cloud and the application that was going to consume that report was sitting on prem. So ingress is, all cloud providers love it, so they kind of don't charge it. But if you're kind of taking the data out and bring it, then there's a huge cost. So, but you kind of don't know what is, only when the bill comes, you kind of try to decipher that away. This tool will kind of tell you that why don't you move this, either move this there so that the egress costs come down, or
interesting, yeah.
think it other way, right? So these are kind of insights that it will give you, that in you're running this service, but a lot of egress cost is coming because you're taking after the analysis done, you're taking the data out, bringing it on prem because the application is sitting on prem. So either you bring that application also over there or do something differently, right? So these kind of insights will also come in. So it's not just optimization on infra.
So I think I would also like to welcome Mr. A.K. Patel, GM IT-Commn and CISO for the NTPC. Sir, might be as a final conclusion remark, if you can tell us about how you look at FinOps as a regime within the organization, and from your standpoint.
Actually, ours is generation company, for power generation company, and FinOps portion is more or less taken care by SAP. We are completely using SAP, BIMS and all those stuff. And of course, that IBM ECM, BPM is our primary e-office sort of thing. So that more or less takes care of everything. So FinOps for us is SAP.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you. I think it's a topic that we can continue to keep talking the whole day, but given the paucity of time that we have to come, and every good thing should also have a conclusion, right? So I would like to summarize what we have discussed so that it's something that we can carry back. And I think I have learned a lot from this whole discussions, and I think me and Nav are going to start implementing lots of new things from next week onwards on the FinOps side. So if you look at cloud cost visibility as a strategic mirror, from a strategy standpoint, what we have discussed is reframe visibility as intelligence, link spend to business value that has come out, and promote transparency as alignment. So looking the same thing from a tactical standpoint, implement FinOps dashboards, tagging and allocating discipline where actually things are going, and scenario modeling. So from a tactical standpoint, and operationally, automated anomaly detection, cost reviews as part of a specific sprint cadence, and the feedback loops within the system. So these are the things that comes up when you look at cost visibility as strategic mirror. And if you look going further and say we will like to automate the whole FinOps with the AI, then what is the strategic is we shift from manual scaling to adaptive systems. There's a possibility, and the human capacity can be reallocated from looking into that, and they can start doing more innovative things, and the intent of automation itself becomes strategic now. Earlier it used to be more of a operational aspect, right? And from a tactical standpoint, now we are talking about intelligent orchestration within the resources that we have, and policy as a code, which is we have seen infrastructure as a code so far. Now we are coming to a stage where we can have a policy as a code. Okay, this is how this system has to work. That we are going to that level now, and now DevOps is becoming AI assisted, right? And from an operational standpoint, now we had automated provisioning, deprovisioning already, but now this is going to be in line with the consumption pattern. Something is being consumed more, it can allocate more, and it can decide intelligently. Self-healing systems and efficacy in the automation point. I think these are all that comes up out of the adopting FinOps as a regime within the organization. And on behalf of the Hindu and IBM, I thank you all for being present with us today and for the valuable input that you have given. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you for having us.
It was a great discussion.